Hello and welcome back to the Yarn Hoarder's Crafting Podcast. My name is Sasha and this is my little alcove of the internet where I like to talk all things crafting. Today I have 3 finished objects, 4 whips, my Q2 stash stats, my Q2 goals, as well as plans and goals for Q3. So this is my first episode back after having surgery. I am so glad to be back. I have a lot to talk about. I won't talk too much about the surgery at this section. I'll talk about it more at the end. I will say it all went well. If you just want the brief bit because you don't stay for the end, it went well. Like, I'm already starting to see improvements. I am still technically healing. I'm only 2.5 weeks post-op, but I'm so happy to be back. I'm starting to see improvements. It's gone well. So it's been what, 3 weeks now since my last episode? Yeah, it'll be 3 weeks by the time you see this. At the time of recording, it is the 1st of July. So it's Wednesday. You're seeing this, if you watch this the day it comes out, it's Friday. So 2.5 weeks post-surgery, 3 weeks since my last update, and I have a little pile of finished objects. I have a small, a medium, and a large. I will start by going in the order in which I finished these. So the first one I finished was actually the medium, which is this tank top. So this is a Tulster tank by Rebecca Clow. This is a DK weight Tulster. I made the size 4 with the F cup modification, and I did the actual vest style. So this comes with 3 options for neckline. There is this one, which I would call the traditional vest. There is the 4 V's or triangles, which makes more of a cami, as well as a square neck option. And this is the one I made. So I used 2 yarns for this. The green yarn, the main colour, is Juniper Moon Farm Findley Dappled DK in the colour Mint. And the blue is by the Woolly Tangle. It is the colour Vidigerous Blue. And both of these yarns are a 50-50 superwash merino 50% silk blend, which means this feels amazing. And the only reason why I'm not wearing this today is I haven't yet had a chance to block this. You didn't see this cast on. It was supposed to be part of a cast on party of projects I was going to cast on for my recovery period. However, I had to cast this on 3 times. 3 times. The first time I cast this on, I was like, there seems to be an awful lot of stitches here for the size 4. This looks huge. Yes, because I cast on the amount of stitches required for the fingering weight. For the size 4 in fingering weight. This is DK. So I cast on, was it almost 300 stitches? I think it was. When on a 4.5mm needle for the ribbing. I did not need that much. I think I needed about half that much. So, and then the second time, I dropped a couple of stitches. Didn't realise because, well, I was already knackered from having to cast it on for a second time, and then threw it into a corner, deleted all footage I had because I didn't want to see it again. And then a couple of days before my op, I cast it on again, got past the ribbing, and then it was just perfect round and round knitting when I needed it. So I did do a kind of like a sporty stripe in this. So this was made mostly because I wanted to use up this green yarn. And I had 2 full hanks, 2 full 100-gram hanks, and a small scrap of yarn left from a previous project. I needed this blue to make up enough for the sweater quantity I needed. My gauge ended up being a little bit looser than I expected, because I didn't gauge swatch. I don't gauge swatch. I only gauge swatch if I have to, also known as if I am using if I'm using a very, very textured pattern that might end up sucking it in a lot, then I will gauge swatch. I didn't gauge swatch for this. So I had 220 grams of this green. This tank top weighs 230 grams. I probably could have just got away with making it just a tad shorter, and I wouldn't have needed to buy the blue, because I now have 90 grams left between these 2 colourways. Oh well, I really like this. It feels amazing, it's very soft. Once I block this, I know these yarns are going to bloom and feel even nicer. So hopefully I'll be wearing this very soon. My next finished object is the small project, and it is these socks. So these socks are for my other half. I already had the one sock finished when I last recorded, and I think I had just the cuff, maybe a couple of rows of the second sock done. I got a lot of progress on these done the Monday after my surgery. The first couple of days after, I was basically stuck in bed. I couldn't make it downstairs. And on the Monday, I got the entirety of the leg done. And I was like, this could be great. I'm going to get these finished in no time. And then as soon as I got the DPNs out to start working the heel flats, the length of the DPNs, the different movements and everything caused me pain, and I stopped working on this. So it took me a day to go from about there to there, and then I didn't pick it up for a week. So once I picked it back up, it didn't take me that long. But yeah, amazingly, when you're not allowed to do anything but knit and watch TV, you get a lot of progress on stuff done. I don't recommend having surgery just for the knitting time, but it's definitely a bonus. So the yarn I used for this was Dark Omen yarns, which I purchased from Stephen and Penelope in Amsterdam. The mini is Rejuvenate, and the main colour is Scuba Dive. They are both 75/25 superwash merino nylon. They are 20 rounds of 2x2 rib on a 2.75mm needle, 72 stitches, 80 rounds for the leg, and then I do a heel flap and gusset. There is a slight mistake on the foot. One of these socks is 2 rows longer in the foot than the other one. And that's because I did the first sock and I did 74 rounds. And I was like, oh, that's great. Made a note of it. Started on the second sock. At least a week and a lot of anaesthetic had passed. And then I was like, oh, okay, I think I remember. I'm pretty sure I did 76 rows for the foot. No, I did 74. 74. So one of these is 2 rows longer. And you might be there going, oh, why didn't you just pick back those 2 rows? Just rip back 2 rows. It's not that hard to do. Except I didn't check the book until after I knitted the toe and kitchen knitted it together. And I only opened the book so that I could write in the finish date. So, yeah, don't assume you remember what you did. Double check if you're able to. It is not going to matter in the grand scheme of things. It's only 2 rows. You know, if it was 2 rows of a DK weight, yes, that would probably be more of an issue. It's fingering weight. It's realistically, it's what? Maybe 0.1 of an inch, especially with mite gauge. So, and he likes his socks longer than normal anyway, so he's not going to notice it. He knows because I told him, because you asked why I was laughing my head off after opening the book to write in the date. But yeah. So, and then my last finished objects. I was not expecting to have this finished, to be quite honest. I was expecting to get the sleeves done, or have the second sleeve done. However, I finished it. No, I will not be putting it on because we are currently in the middle of a heatwave. But this amazing, almost shapeless blob at the moment of green fabric is my In-Between Dreams cardigan. So I finished this on Sunday. I finished this on Sunday, so weirdly, when I wasn't able to work on this sock because of the DPNs, I'd asked my partner to bring me another project. I had meant this project, but apparently, can you bring me up the green project was a bit confusing because I had just attached the green yarn. So although all I really had was the blue rib, he took the green project to mean the cardigan. And bless his little heart, he was still working from home during my recovery, so he was still working, and I was like, it's fine, I'll just work on this. And which was a bit awkward, but I managed it because I basically had the body of it sat next to me, because I think I was about here. So I was able to sort of hold it, I was able to rest it next to me rather than on my stomach. And I managed to finish the second sleeve in what I would call record time for me. I finished like half of the second sleeve in 2 days. I finished it in 2 days. Part of that was because it was the only project upstairs with me that I could work on, that's comfortable to work on. But the other reason why that's an achievement is I don't do magic loop. It's not my favourite method, and yet when you have nothing else to do, it flies. So for the last time talking about this, other than when I wear it, so this is my In-Between Dreams cardigan by My Units. And I used, so I have This is Rowan Valley Tweed, and it is 100% wool. This is also a fingering weight yarn, and as best as I can tell, a discontinued yarn. And the reason it's semi in reach, although leaning forward hurts, I had to get my partner to wind up skeins of this as I needed them, because my setup is on a low coffee table, which requires sitting on the floor, which I can manage now, but yeah, so he had to wind that up for me. But this took a lot, a lot less yarn than I was expecting it to. So this pattern is technically meant for sport weight yarn. I used a fingering weight yarn, and I just adjusted it by going down 1/4 millimeter size on the recommended needles, and I went up a pattern size, which, when I did try this on, gives me the perfect size. There was a couple of other modifications I made. Mostly because I forgot when I first did it and then didn't want to go back and change it, didn't put any buttonholes. So this cardigan does not button up. And this is designed, or at least the way I've designed it to work, is to be a fully open cardigan. I also decided I didn't want the harshness of a rib on the cuff or hem. This is curling quite a bit because it's not yet been blocked. So I finished all of the edges in the same way it has you start the neck, which is with 6 rows of garter stitch. So I did go down to the smaller needle size to do the garter rows and bind off. But yeah, I think it looks quite neat and polished. It looks, when I'm wearing it, it actually looks intentional. It looks like that's how it was designed. So I also lengthened this. I've mentioned in the past, I have quite a long torso. As well as being quite tall for a woman, I have quite a long torso, and as a result, long arms. So I added about 3 inches to the arm, also because I got rid of the 1.5 inches of rib. So technically I only added about 1.5 inches, 2 inches to the arm, but I omitted the rib. So I also ended up adding 2.5 to 3 inches on the body. I think it says to work the body until it is 12.5 inches, and then you add 2 inches of rib. I worked this until it was 15 inches, so from the underarm 15 inches, and then just did the 6 rows of garter stitch, which it does put it at just the perfect length. It's a long enough that if I'm wearing low-rise jeans, it sits just under the waistband at the back. That way then I'm not showing my butt off if my jeans decide to slip down a bit further. And once it cools down, hopefully not for a long time, please don't cool down yet. Once this cools down, you will probably see me wearing this in more videos, because I have been desperately needing more cardigans. And so I now have another cardigan. It also means I'm now starting to have more handmade garments that fit me. I have a lot of handmade garments that I can no longer wear because they're just way too big on me. Or because of the yarn choices of over time have stretched and other stuff. I've got one jumper that has 30 inches of positive ease at the bust. I'm amazed that stays on my shoulders. But finished object number 3. And now, before I go into whips, I do want to go over my stash stats. I haven't been doing this monthly the last couple of months, mostly because I haven't really finished much, or there's not been much to go over. So this has kind of become a quarterly thing for this time round. So I have a fair amount of details. I'm just going to adjust the camera one moment. There we go. You're a bit closer to me now. I'm so sorry. So, my quarter one goals, my quarter one stash was looking lovely because I was negative 1,233 grams. I'm not negative this quarter. As one can expect, when you go away, you buy yarn. And I went to a yarn show where I bought 2 kilograms of yarn, as well as other things. So my grams in for quarter 2, so April, May and June, 3,400 grams of yarn came into my stash during the second quarter of 2026. And due to being incredibly busy, not having much time, a lot of other commitments, my grams out for quarter 2 stands at 1,073 grams. Which, for those of you good at maths, have probably already worked out what the difference of that is. I had to use a calculator. That's a difference of plus 2,327 grams. So the year to date, so at the time of recording, because I haven't finished anything else since calculating this, I am positive 1,094 grams of yarn. So that's not too bad, to be honest. My goal for the year is to be, at worst, stash neutral. And to me, stash neutral is 500 grams either side of 0. It would be nice to have a stash negative year, but stash neutral is the goal. So going by that logic, I'm only plus 594 grams, which, yeah, that sounds like a better figure. That's a lot better figure to work with. We'll get to why that might be a problem in a bit. So my FO count, so in 3 months, I finished 10 projects, which sounds like a lot, but also doesn't sound like a lot when I realised most of that was socks and my squares for my yarn club. Separate video series, probably linked here. Sorry, shameless plug. And I'm going into the third quarter with 13 whips. Not all of those are currently active whips. You're not going to see them all after this. I've got 4 whips that I'm going to show you, but I currently have 13 active whips. So that's my stash stats for quarter 2. I'm sure it's all been on screen, just in case you can't quite understand me. But I also had some mini goals for quarter 2. So one of those was finish a large garment, and thanks to finishing the In-Between Treams cardigan on Sunday, that has been achieved. I have managed that, no problem. So, large garment finished. I don't know if I want to call it a large garment because it only used 311 grams of yarn and I had 500 grams to use. But it's finished. It has long sleeves, therefore it's a large garment. My other mini goal was to finish 2 longer running projects. And here is where I stumble a bit, because maybe we can call that a half win. But I finished two of my 12 cast-ons. I finished my Nando the Magnificent back in April, and I finished my In Between Dreams cardigan. So at best, they were 6 months. 6 months old at best. Realistically, Nando the Magnificent, or as he's known in this house, Nando the Nudist, he was only realistically a 4-month long whip because I started him as my... Was it my first or my second? He was one of my first cast-ons. However, I still have at least six whips from last year that haven't been touched. Or they have been touched, but they've not been finished. So I don't know if I can call that goal a win, because I still have at least 6 projects that I started last year. One of them might even be earlier than that. So maybe a win. I also had the bonus goal of starting my Kerr sweater with my birthday yarn. Given all of that is still here, I haven't managed that one. Mostly because I didn't get round to starting it before my op, and I thought starting a big colourwork project might be pushing it a bit if I don't want to have to unwind it and start it again. So that's one of my sort of goals or plans. I mean, technically all of this yarn here has a plan attached to it in this cube. I mean, most of the yarn in this cube also has a plan attached to it, but this one, most of my yarn has plans attached to it. It's just whether I get to it or not. I would like to have this cast on, mostly because I'd like to have it finished before the winter, so sort of before Christmas, because as a DK weight colourwork sweater, it's going to be lovely and warm in the winter. But we'll get to that when we get to that. So, quarter 3. Yes, we have just started quarter 3. We're more than halfway to Christmas, guys. Sorry. Sorry, I'm starting to get uncomfortable. Need to change positions. Let's just tilt you a bit so you can see more of the yarn. So, yarn in. Like, I'm not on a buying ban. I don't think buying bans work, because as soon as you put yourself on a buying ban, you see all of the yarn, you see all of the pretties, and all of a sudden you have like 6 kilograms of yarn coming into stash and no plans for it. So, not on a buying ban. Which is probably a good thing, because I have a list of reasons why yarn is going to come into my stash. Obviously, I get a monthly yarn club, so that's 300 grams at least of yarn coming in this quarter. I say at least 300 grams because there is at least one more band in lineup that I will be buying multiple skeins for, because one of the bands, I'm not going to say which one of the bands is one of my friend's favourite bands, and I have decided to buy an extra skein of that yarn to make her something. I'm not going to say what I'm making her, just in case she watches this, but yeah. So, at least 300 grams is coming in this quarter from my yarn club. In 10 days' time, from the time of recording, is the Midlands Wool Show. Yeah, I'm going to the Midlands Wool Show. Mostly so that I can support it. It's a new yarn show in my local area. It's in Wolverhampton. I will leave the link in the description. Which, it's not a very long drive from me. I think it's like, I don't know, about 25-30 minute drive, mostly on the motorway. So it's not that far from me. I've been to Wolverhampton a few times. I used to work in Wolverhampton. So yeah, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna support the show. I've already bought my ticket for the show. I've also booked to do a workshop, which will be my first time doing a workshop at a yarn show. In fact, I think it's going to be the first time doing a fibercraft related workshop ever. I'm not going to tell you what workshop I'm doing just yet. I'm going to leave that as a surprise. I am going to be vlogging, so at some point there will be a vlog up for that show, but I'm going to a wool show. I'm not going to go to a wool show and promise to not buy anything, because what's the point going to a wool show? I'm going to support the show. I'm going to go with a plan. I'm going to have 3 projects in mind, a small, a medium and a large. Probably not going to buy yarn for all of those. I'm probably just going to come back with a few skeins, famous last words. And that is mostly because of the last reason yarn is going to be coming into my stash. At the end of July into August, me and my partner are going on holiday to Finland. I'm not going to be vlogging that holiday, mostly because we're meeting up with a lot of friends. We're going to be hitting about at least 3 cities. Partner and his side of the mates, sort of the boy side, are all going to some sort of motor rally. Me and the girl side of this meetup are all crafters. We are all crafters. And of course, because we have a local with us, she said she's going to take us all to a couple of different yarn shops. Including in the one city, there is the Tuku, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, the Tuku shop, which is a Finnish yarn. I think there's also going to be a Knitting for Olive shop. I think it's that one in Helsinki, which is the city me and my partner are spending a few days in on our own. So I'm not going to restrict my opportunities to buy new to me yarns. Some of them are a lot harder to come by in the UK due to multiple reasons. And I don't generally buy yarn online unless I have seen it in person and squished it in person at least once. That's just personal preference, to be honest. So I'm not going to be restricting what yarn I buy in Finland. It's not happening. So I would like to say that I want Q3 to be a negative quarter. I would like to say I'm going to use a lot more yarn this quarter than I did last quarter. I would love to say that I'm going to use more yarn than I bring in. I, however, am a realist. Which brings me to the goals. So, goal. I would like to finish another large garment. So, large garment is a long-sleeved garment. I have one long-sleeved garment already cast on, although I might end up having to rip that back. That is something for another day because it's currently in the naughty corner. I'm not going to talk about it right now. I also have a sweater vest, but I don't know if I want to class that as a large garment because it doesn't have sleeves. But if I cast this on, because it's DK weight, it might work up quicker than I'm expecting, so it might be finished. It might not be, but I have options. My second goal is to finish my sheepish sweaters. It is one of the whips I'm going to show you. But a friend of mine, she's due to have her second baby this month. These are not going to be finished for this month. They're also sweaters, so she doesn't need them for the summer. The goal is to have them shipped out by the 1st of September, which means I need to get them finished this quarter because I want to get them sent off up to her in York. She's near York, but I want to get them sent off and shipped off by the 1st of September. So she has the sweaters for when the cold weather hits. She knows they're not going to be ready for when the baby was due. By the time we got around to sorting out colours, the design and everything, I was like, there's no point in me making a newborn size, because she's not going to wear a thick colourwork woolly jumper during the summer months, So I'm making the 6 to 12 month size for the baby, and then the 6-year size for the older kid, because the pattern comes in 4 or 6. The kid's 5. So, one of the goals. I think that should be relatively easy, and you'll see why in a bit. The other goal. Now, this is a stretch goal, because it's an aim to use a certain weight of yarn. I would like to use around 2,000 grams of yarn, so 2 kilograms of yarn this quarter. Now, that might not happen. I use a lot of fingering weight yarn. That's my preferred weight of yarn. I use a lot of fingering weight yarn. So it takes a long time to make a garment in fingering weight yarn, and it doesn't use up huge amounts. As my In Between Dreams cardigan shows, this is a little over 300 grams for a full, quite long, busty, long-armed cardigan, But the sheepish sweaters are in Aran weights. That was 600 grams of yarn that came into my stash to make those. I reckon it's going to take me about 400 grams to make the sweaters. And then I'm going to have a lot of the white and the black left. And if I have the chance to, before I need to send these off, I'm going to try and use that yarn to make a couple of little stuffies, as a sort of an extra gift to send it off. And I have 900 grams of DK weight here. I have 600 grams of DK weight. It's in 3 different colours, but I've got 600 grams of DK weight for another cardigan. I've also got a DK weight jumper to make for my other half. But I'm not going to force myself to work on projects that I don't want to in that moment. If I want to work on a fingering weight summer top that's only going to use 200 grams of yarn, I'm going to work on the fingering weight summer top that only uses 200 grams of yarn. The idea of the goal is to push myself. If I don't use 2 kilograms of yarn in 3 months, I don't use 2 kilograms of yarn in 3 months. It's a stretch goal. It's an aim. It's a hope. Bonus goal. This is more because I'm taking 2 pairs of socks on holiday with me. Can I finish 4 pairs of socks in 3 months? We shall see. And that is it for my stash goals. I am now going to pause this. I need to go and get a drink. I'm starting to get a bit croaky. I should also get up and stretch my legs. I'm trying to get back into the movement, having spent basically 2 weeks not allowed to move. So if the lighting changes, if the position changes, I apologise. I should be back shortly. I'm back. So, whips. So I have 4 whips to talk about. I might have touched a couple of others, but these are the ones I know I've touched. 2 of them are new cast-ons. We will start with this one. This hasn't seen the most work, but it's definitely seen some. It is longer. I really should get like a stitch marker or a progress keeper to put on this because it's not like I can say, oh, since I've done this shape, it's a long rectangle. So this is going to be a scarf, part of a set I am making for charity for Christmas. And this, sorry, I've been betrayed. So this is a scarf for a part of a hat and scarf set I'm making as a donation for Christmas. It is Tunisian crochet, and it is in this honeycomb stitch, and I am using a Hobby Essentials Aran in the colour Lilac. So this is a 100% acrylic yarn. I don't know where this came from. This was given to me. So yeah, it's seen progress. It's not the most exciting. I would pick it up and put it down here and there, and that's about it really. I'm not quite sure how long I'm going to make it, but I know it's not yet long enough. So yeah, I've almost finished the second skein. I have another 4. Yeah, I have 4 more. I think 4 skeins will make this long enough, and then I'll have 2 to make a hat with. But yeah, no immediate rush for this. It needs to be done, I think, by the middle of November. I think they have like a 2-week period where they collect donations specifically as like gifts. They take donations year round, but this is specifically for Christmas for a women's and children's charity. So that's that. There's not tons to say on that because it is literally just a long rectangle at the moment of a scarf. I haven't decided if I want to put tassels on it. I think I might just leave it like that instead of having tassels on it. But there we go. There's that one. Now, the other project you have seen before. This has seen a little bit of progress. So these are my Christmas socks that I'm making for my partner. There will be 2 pairs, one for me and one for him. This so far I've got so far on the first sock of the first pair. I have finished the first cable repeats. For my partners, there is going to be 3 repeats of this pattern. On mine, there'll only be 2, but he likes longer socks than me. So that is the first repeat of the pattern on the first sock. I was halfway through the pattern when you last saw this, so I've done about 12 rows. Yeah. I apologise if you can hear my phone in the background. The group chat for our Finland trip has started to pick up with chatter again. So the yarns I'm using for this is from Ainsworth and Prynne. There is their label. This is in the classic sock, which is an 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, which means it's a bit of a plumper base. And I'm using the colours Wild Strawberry and Tide. And once again, I've just realised I haven't told you what I'm wearing. I'll do that at the end. So these are my Christmas socks. These were one of my 12 cast-ons, and that's how much progress they've got. I'll be honest, I've not been in the mood for cables, so I've not been doing cables. I've kind of been in the mood for lace and colour work, and surprisingly stocking stitch, but yeah. I'm in the mood for texture, but not necessarily cables. So but they get finished when they get finished. Like, if they're not finished for this Christmas, they'll be finished for next Christmas. I hope. But yeah, I seem to be flying through the whips. That's because you've seen these two before. There's not tons of progress on them. The cable pattern comes from one of my stitch dictionaries that I've got. I'll put the picture of it up on screen, and I'll leave the name in the description box for you. But it's a 2 diamonds overlaid textured cable design. So yeah. And now my 2 new cast-ons. I'll start with the small one. This is a sock project. Spoiler alert. So as some of you may know, I am trying to knit 12 pairs of socks this year. That does technically equate to 1 pair a month. And so far I've been managing that. So these were my June socks. These are the ones I hoped to finish in June. These that I'm about to show you are the July. The ones I would like to have finished in July. And this is using yarn I actually showed you a couple of months ago that I wanted to wind up to cast on as a next cast on. I finally got around to doing it. So this is the Fruitful Fusion in the colourway Ryad. And this is the cake. It is these beautiful, rich, purpley browns with like pastel green and orange and beige. And I am almost to the point of adding a heel. So this is what I have so far. They are kind of striping, which I wasn't expecting them to. And you might be able to tell that I attempted something at the top of this sock and then quickly changed my mind because you can't really see it in this yarn. So this is 64 stitches on a 2.5mm short circular. I did 20 rounds of 2x2 rib, and then I attempted to do what I call a mini waffle pattern at the top. I quickly worked out that you can't see it, but I was too lazy to rip it back. So there is 18 rows of mini waffle stitch at the top, which makes it feel really nice, but I just stopped doing it because you couldn't really see it, so I just switched to doing a plain vanilla sock. I will repeat that on the second sock, obviously. So this so far I've got. I think I'm going to do another sort of like 10 to 15 rows before I add the heel. I don't want these to be shorties, but I don't want them to be really long ones either. So, because I think these make, the colours strike me as very autumnal. So I want them to be long enough that I can wear them with my like walking boot. You can't really call them walking boots, but they're kind of like thicker soled trainers for walking in. So I want them for that, but I don't want them to be too short, but I don't want them too long, so yeah. So these are going to be my July socks. Now, depending on how quickly I knit these might come with me to Finland to work on. I'm just going to move the camera one moment. There we go. So depending on how quickly I knit these might come with me to Finland as one of my works in progress for the trip. However, if there is not much left on these before I go and I can't finish them before I go, I won't take them with me, which means they won't get finished in July, but they will be almost finished, and the goal is not to finish a pair of socks a month. The goal is to finish 12 pairs of socks in 2026. So I haven't yet decided what 2 pairs of socks I'm going to cast on to take with me, but it'll be a pair for my partner and a pair for me, because I've only got so many sets of needles. So, but I'm loving the colours. I'm loving the way they stripe. I wasn't expecting them to stripe. I was expecting it to be more of a variegated, which is unusual for me because I'm not usually a variegated person, but I love these. The colours are amazing, and yeah, I'm hoping I can see her again at another show at some point. I don't know if she's going to be at the West Midlands wool show, but I'm pretty sure she's going to be at the Christmas wool show. I do like her dye style, and I might try and pick up a similar colourway for another pair of socks. So that is the mandatory pair of socks that's always on my needles for out and about knitting. I have a couple of appointments to go to in the coming weeks, not hospital appointments or anything like that. I've just got a couple of appointments, so I've got waiting room knitting. And now the final one, which I hinted to during my Q3 goals. These, well, there's only one at the moment, but these are going to be the jumpers I am making for a friend. The pattern I am using for this is the Sheepish Little Sweater by Melissa Camera. It's on screen. I think Camera. I'm not quite sure. For these jumpers, I'm using Yarnsmith's Create Aran. So far I've only got this colour going, which is the pale lilac. And so I'm going to be making 2 of these. I've started with the bigger size. I've started with the 6-year size for the older child. And this is how far I have come. I think I worked out I'm about 2 inches away from starting the colour work. I am, unusually for me, going to be knitting this completely to pattern. I'm going to be following the directions for the lengths and everything. So usually when I'm making garments for me or my partner, I follow the general directions until it comes to like the length of the body and the length of the sleeves. I generally do it to our preferences. I don't have access to this child to measure her, and I don't feel comfortable asking the parents if they could measure their child for me. So I'm just following this completely to pattern. I think I mentioned she's technically going to be 5 in a couple of months, but this pattern only comes in like a 4-year, and then it jumps to 6-year. So I didn't want to make the 4-year size because that's not going to fit her. But the 6-year might be a little bit big, but I'm still just going to make it completely to pattern. If it doesn't fit her this year, it'll fit her next year. But yeah. So this is just a basic raglan at this point so far. In about 2 inches, I will start working on the little sheep, which I think is absolutely adorable. So I'm just using some black scrap yarn for the because I've got the sleeves on hold. So there is colour work on the sleeves. I will be doing that according to pattern as well. It is going to mean, however, that I'm going to have to do colour work on Magic Loop, which I'm not looking forward to. Like, when it comes to sleeves, I will do Magic Loop if I have to. Like I did Magic Loop on my cardigan. Given this is a kid sweater in Aran weight wool, it should be simple enough. Like, it shouldn't take very long to actually do. You know, it is on 5mm needles for the main portion of this. So, I also figured if I start with the biggest size that I have to make of the two, knitting the baby one will take half the time. But, yeah. I'm not keen on the idea of doing colour work on Magic Loop. I don't particularly doing lace on Magic Loop because that's a faff as it is. Yeah. Like, colour work on Magic Loop. And of course, it's a child's sleeve, so I don't even think... I don't think I can get a 9-inch circular on 5mm anyway. But, once I get down to the size for the sleeve, because there is some decreases, I don't think it's going to matter. I think I'm going to have to do Magic Loop, even if I did have a 9-inch circular with 5mm needles. But it shouldn't be too bad. I mean, it should be fairly quick, if not painless. So, yeah, this is adorable. Like, this is so small. Like, and this is the 6-year size. Wait till I'm doing the baby one, the 6 to 12 month size. Like, this is tiny. Like, how are children this small? Yes, it's obvious I don't have kids. But it's just, it's so cute. And if anyone's there wondering, no, my ovaries aren't twitching wanting one. But it's so cute, so tiny. And yes, for whips, as I said, I'm pretty sure that's it. I have touched my, I have done work on my yarn club, my monthly yarn club for It's Not a Phase. That video is not going to be out for a couple of weeks, and the reason for that is I was a tit. I didn't wind the yarn before I had me op, so my partner had to wind it. And I've already done all of the really simple squares from that pattern, so it's quite a complicated square for me, and I kind of need brain capacity to do it. So, if you're wondering where June's Yarn Club video is, it's going to be a while, I'm sorry. I'm hoping not to, but it might end up being combined with July's. We'll see. So, not only that, I've barely got any footage for June's because I've been ill. Or not ill, because I've been recovering. Like, I don't think you wanted to see me really, really swollen and bloated, complaining about trying to get this square to work. I have started the first square. I'm most of the way through the first square at this point, but the amount of times I had to start it because it just wasn't making sense. Yeah. So that's everything I have worked on. No, it's not, because I have actually touched one of the projects. I know I have touched this project. But it's currently in the naughty corner because I might have to rip it out and start again. Which, it's completely my own fault. There's nothing wrong with the pattern. It's just I don't read, apparently. It is the long-sleeved garment that's on my needles at the moment that might be this month's goal of working on as my long-sleeved large garment. We'll see. It's currently in the naughty corner. So, and other than that, I will mention health updates. You've kind of had it sprinkled throughout. I am doing well, I'm doing better, I'm recovering, I'm on the mend. I've already seen improvements, which is great. I'm obviously only 2.5 weeks post-surgery. I'm still recovering, I'm still healing, I'm still very bruised, and not overly swollen, but I'm swollen. And yeah, I'm still supposed to be on light duties. Basically, I was told to have like basically 2 weeks of complete rest, and then after that start building back up into it. Like, I can't go straight back to what I was doing before, of like 9 fitness classes a week, doing, you know, intense cardio, especially as a lot of the stuff I was doing was attacking the core. So obviously, because of where it was keyhole surgery. They removed a lot of scar tissue, and the way my surgeon said, the scar tissue had decided to take the shotgun approach of just little bits everywhere, like a shotgun pallet. Or yeah. So anyone who's there going, oh, I had keyhole, I was recovered and it was fine, you know, I had my appendix out through keyhole. Yes, and I'm glad you managed to recover quickly. They touched so many different areas in my abdomen that when I woke up I felt like my entire abdomen was on fire. But I'm on the mend. I'm improving, it's going well. So, still in some pain, still in some discomforts. Hopefully, by the time I go to Finland, I will be fully recovered. I have to also remember, you know, I am now 30. I am not going to bounce back in the same way I did when I last had surgery. I had surgery when I was 17 for a ovarian torsion, emergency surgery. That was also keyhole. I bounced back from that quite quickly, but that was 13 years ago and I was quite a bit younger. So, I will say no advice, please, with like medical stuff. I know most of you, it's like you mean well, you're just trying to be helpful. I am basically just like, if you're not my doctor, if you haven't seen my blood results and the surgery stuff, like, everybody's different. What worked for you is probably not going to work for others. You know, I know you mean well when giving advice, but yeah, just please. I'm doing well. I am recovering. I will say, I watched an awful lot of TV while I was recovering, like not just YouTube. I watched the entirety of Wolf Hall season 1 and 2. I watched the extended editions of The Lord of the Rings, all 3 of them. I also watched a couple of other things. Oh, I finished watching Clarkson's Farm. Look, I know some people there going, oh, I don't like Clarkson, he's a bit of a twat. Yes, he is, but he's doing amazing things for British farming and stuff. And yes, okay, he's a twat, but he's a British twat, and he's working with us, he's working for us, okay? And with that, I will tell you what I'm wearing, because I've once again forgotten, and then I will leave you here with this hour-long episode. Oh God, I'm so sorry. So I am wearing, this is a Tolster T, not a tank, a T, different pattern. This is a 4-ply weight one, using Creative Anarchy in her Borgies base. The black is Hot Springs, and the pink is Was He Slow? I've talked about this before when I was making it, so I will link the video where I finish this, or cast it on, or something along those lines in the description, maybe up here. And with that, I hope you've had an amazing few weeks. I hope you will have an amazing summer or winter if you're in the Southern Hemisphere. I will leave you here this week, and I hope to see you all again next week. Bye, guys.